Hello and welcome to the InterPlex. Ernesto Mancera is a marine biologist and Colombia's foremost expert on mangroves. He is a research professor at the National University of Colombia in Bogotá, where he formerly served as head of the biology department and also was the former director of the San Andrés campus of the National University, which sits within San Andrés Island in the Caribbean Sea. Mancera has collaborated on projects with prominent marine biologists around the world, and was the president of the 6th International Mangrove Macrobenthos and Management Conference, MMM6, which was held in Cartagena in 2023 and brought together the world's top mangrove experts. Mancera has worked for decades collecting data, forming actionable science-based proposals and solutions, and calling attention to the diverse oceanic and coastal ecosystems of Colombia, with a particular focus on the incomparable Ciénaga Grande de Santa Marta. We spoke about Ciénaga, mangroves, connectivity, and the critical importance of interdisciplinary nature-based solutions, communication, and dialogue. Mancera, curiously enough, is from Colombia's sprawling capital city, Bogotá, which sits high in the Andes Mountains and is far from the extensive Colombian coastlines of both the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. In other words, not a place with a whole lot of marine biology to explore. Well, hello again, Ernesto.
Hello, Daniel. How are you?
I'm great. Again, nice to be with you in your lab here at the National University of Colombia.
Welcome to the Marine Lab here in Biology Department.
Pleasure. So I'm going to start actually by asking you about your personal history. How does somebody from the internal region of a mountainous country like Colombia end up spending their whole life trying to get attention for the marine ecosystems here in Colombia and around the world? What got you so interested in marine biology?
I really don't know, but I remember when I was a kid, first time I met the ocean, I was really impressed, but really, really impressed. And from that moment, I was 8 years old, I started thinking in the ocean every single day. So when I have the chance, when I finished biology, I decided to do a master in Santa Marta with the same university, and that was I started with marine biology research.
And after your master's at Santa Marta, what was your career trajectory?
Yeah, I went to INVEMAR, it's the marine institution in Colombia, and I did my master's there. I was working with the same institution for some years, and then I got a fellowship to go to the States to talk with the professor Robert Twilly, who was the biggest names for mangrove ecosystems.
Fantastic. So since then, you've concentrated much of your attention on coastal ecosystems in Colombia, mostly?
Yeah, I was living also in San Andrés Island, and I had the chance also to work over there. And now I'm in Bogotá, this is my base, but I travel around the country from the Pacific and Caribbean places.
Well, one of these incredible coastal ecosystems, which we have spoken about in the past, collaborated on, is the Ciénaga Grande de Santa Marta. Can you explain a bit about what makes this place so special, so productive, so unique in terms of a ecoregion for the world?
Ciénaga Grande is really special for I would say, the biological productivity. It means the fishery we can get from that place. And why the fishery or the productivity is so high? Basically because of the connections with the ocean, the Caribbean, with the Magdalena River, and also with Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta. And we have different rivers that drain the Sierra Nevada, and we have all these nutrients concentrate in the lagoon in Ciénaga Grande.
So those nutrients help to combine energy, essentially, to produce the diverse biology of the
Exactly.
Ciénaga.
We have a lot of nutrients, light, and because of that, we have such a high productivity in terms of fishes, but also in terms of oysters and some crabs and other invertebrates.
And what is important about the connectivity with the ocean that you speak about? Does that produce a certain kind of delicate balance between saltwater and freshwater?
Yeah, this is an estuarine system, and the estuarine system means connectivity or the mix between fresh water, that of course comes from the rivers, and the marine water. And when these two waters meet, so nutrients start to go down and to concentrate there.
Before, you've described this to me as one of the most productive estuarine ecosystems in the world. What gives it that characteristic, and what are some of the details? What makes it so productive?
Okay, so we have, I would say, also light nutrients and high temperature. And because of that, we have different species that can take advantage of this energy. But also, we have a lot of communities, groups, people that take advantage of these resources. And Ciénaga is special for ecological aspect, but also for socioeconomic aspect. Really, really particular. One of the particularities is the type of village we have there. We have some village that are, the houses are on the water. In Spanish, we call this palafittic village. And we have some in the Pacific, but the ones that we have in the Caribbean, here in Colombia, are in Ciénaga Grande.
These palafittic villages, they're kind of amphibious.
Exactly, this is a very good definition. They are amphibious people that they live in the water, but also in the land.
And you've explained to me before about the long and somewhat tragic history of what's happened to this amazing place going back even 100 years. What would you say have been some of the main drivers and impacts to this ecosystem, and what is the current state of the Ciénaga Grande de Santa Marta right now?
Well, in a moment, let's say 1956, the government decided to connect Ciénaga with Barranquilla. Barranquilla is one of the main harbors to export products. So we have banana in the zona bananera in Spanish, banana zone. So we need to export all these products to the States and to Europe. So because of that, the government decided to build up a big road to connect those cities. And years later, in the middle of 70s, they decided also to build a road parallel to Magdalena River, in order also to move products from that place to Barranquilla. Ciénaga is located in a very arid zone. So of course, and this is a wetland. In general terms, we have a wetland ecosystem there. So if we interrupt the water fluxes from the ocean to Ciénaga and from the river to Ciénaga, of course we generate a problem. So because of the road constructions, we have interrupt the flux of water, and we have the salinity increase a lot. So because of that, mangrove, 70% of the forest died off because of this situation.
Because of the salinity.
Because of the hypersalinic conditions. Yes.
Can you give some of the details? It's fine to provide some of the data. What is the increase in salinity? What is a normal level of salinity for the Ciénaga, and what did it go up
to? So for mangrove, one is the estuary itself, where salinity goes from, let's say, fresh water to 30 or 35% or per thousand in the water. But in the mangrove forest, which is a wetland, salinity can go up to 70, and it's no problem. But in that place, we have more than 100, and for a long period of time, and let's say almost a year. So 8-9 months with very high salinity, so mangrove cannot resist this stress and start to lose all the vegetation.
And these are for all species of mangroves that are there? How many species are there?
We have only 3 mangrove species there. In the world, we can have something like 60 mangrove species, but in the Caribbean, we have 5, and in Ciénaga we have only 3. Mm-hmm. And the main one is one. It's called Avicennia herminans, and it's the species that can resist for more higher salinity. Mm-hmm.
Great. So let's talk a little bit more about connectivity. The connection to the Magdalena River, the connectivity to the ocean, and to the Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta. It sounds like this particular ecosystem, the Ciénaga Grande de Santa Marta, the connectivity is critical. When those points of connection, that balance, that equilibrium is thrown off. So how would you stress the importance of connectivity for the Ciénaga Grande de Santa Marta and in general for wetland ecosystems?
You mentioned it's a wetland. So a wetland means that the system needs water, and but it's a wetland located in a very arid zone. Mm-hmm. So of course, if we interrupt even fresh water or marine water, so the system is gonna get a lot of problems. And we saw with the salinity issue that you just mentioned. And because of that, the solution was to try to reconnect the ocean with Ciénaga, mm-hmm. but didn't work. So then we said, well, we need fresh water, mm-hmm. to reconnect the Magdalena River with the former delta. And at the beginning was working, I say, good.
How was that connection reestablished?
Was through 5 main channels. Mm-hmm. That was happening in 90s, 91 and 93, and then 1998. The government reopened the channels. And again, was salinity decrease, and was at the beginning was fine, the solution.
So these were the natural channels, and they needed to be reopened.
They were natural, yes, that they were reopened, basically.
What about the connections with the ocean? How many natural channels were there, and how many exist now that are artificial?
I mean, even the inlet that exists, all are artificial.
Okay.
When the engineers built the road, they stopped. I think there were something like 6 small channels, mm-hmm. to pass the water from the ocean to the lagoon, but they stopped all these channels, and they built up one that is called Boca de la Barra, mm-hmm. and is the only inlet and outlet that exists in the Ciénaga.
Is that working well at all, Boca de la Barra?
It's working fine. I mean, opens and closes depend on the amount of the years, but it's fine. I think it's stable.
Mm-hmm. Let's go back to talking a bit about mangroves, because this is a particular area of interest and specialization for you. You were the president of the MMM6 conference that was held in Cartagena in 2023. What is so important about mangroves in general for a wetland ecosystem? And if you want to use the Ciénaga Grande de Santa Marta as an example of how important the mangrove species are and were, maybe you can just explain how it's such a fundamental part of wetland and estuarine ecosystems.
Nowadays, mangroves are very well known because of the ecosystem services, mm-hmm. that they provide to society. So now we recognize that mangroves are important because they are very good sinkers of carbon sinks, and also they are good to try to avoid coastal erosion. And also they are nice and very important for the biodiversity. Mm-hmm. But let's say 100 years ago, if we were talking about this, I would say totally different history. Mm-hmm. Mangrove smell bad, mangroves have a lot of mosquitoes, mm-hmm. mangroves are not nice ecosystems. But now we have information, scientific information about the benefits. And that's why now we defend mangrove. We are mangrove fans somehow. So in Ciénaga particularly, the productivity, fishes and mollusks and whatever, also is due to the mangrove condition. If the mangrove wetlands are in good condition, in healthy conditions, productivity is going to be also fine. But if we don't have mangrove, the water quality is going down and the fishes are going to be lost. And it's what happened in Ciénaga. We have fish mortality, different and very recurrent, very frequently moments with big fish mortality.
Mm-hmm.
And when we look at where was the problem, we found that in the places where we have mangrove in a worse situation.
Mm-hmm. So there was a correlation between the mangrove die-off and then the fish mortality afterwards.
Definitely, yes. And when we measure the water quality, we found that in those places, nutrients, particularly phosphorus, is really high,
mm-hmm.
and oxygen is really low.
Mm. The phosphorus, is that coming from the agricultural sector, or where does that come
Definitely comes from the agricultural sector, and in that place, in that type of places, if the phosphorus arrive and go down and is in the sediments,
mm-hmm.
is accumulated in the sediments.
Mm-hmm.
So when the oxygen decrease, that phosphorus start to release from the sediment to the water.
Mm-hmm.
So increase the concentration in the water, and generates the harmful algal bloom.
And I think you've mentioned before that the oysters somehow help to control this buildup of
Exactly.
phosphorus, of algae, of other organic matter. So,
Oysters are filters, basically.
mm-hmm.
And so they work in that way. So they control the phytoplankton,
Mm-hmm.
and avoid that to have these harmful algal events.
Mm-hmm. And what is the state of the oyster populations in the Ciénaga right now?
Now decrease a lot, and decrease for the high sedimentation, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Because of course the Magdalena River, as well the other rivers, they bring water but also bring sediments.
Mm-hmm.
We need sediments for the system, but if the load of sediments is so high, it start to accumulate.
Mm-hmm.
So channels need to be reopened every year. This is one of the current problems.
They're not being reopened every year. Maybe I can ask you, if you're comfortable, why are they not being reopened every year? Is it lack of resources, lack of accountability, lack of understanding? What is causing this?
It's hard to say, but I think it's corruption.
Mm.
Because I think the local authority has the money, but they use it for other things,
mm-hmm.
and not for Ciénaga. I will say like that.
Are the Palafito communities involved in the, do they have some rights to demand that the ecosystem or the channels remain open, or do they have the knowledge to be able to say what is going on? Do they also have an understanding of what's been happening to their ecosystem that they live in?
I think they understand perfectly the problem even better than us, mm-hmm. but they need them to be more organized. Mm-hmm. Not only to complain, because they complain all the time. I understand that, but we need not only to complain, but also to propose, to give also solutions. And I think we need this social, powerful, to reorganize better the people, and not only to complain, but also to help in the Ciénaga Grande Santa Marta management.
Mm-hmm. So the Ciénaga Grande is not lacking in international designations, whether Ramsar or all kinds of attention from United Nations and many research institutions around the world. A lot of studies have been done on this. Why has the problem not been solved yet, and why do studies seem to be repeated often? What's going on here?
I mean, I don't know exactly, but I would mention some ideas. Yes, you are right that Ciénaga was the first wetland that Colombia included in the Ramsar Convention.
Mhm.
Is also one of the 5 international biosphere reserves that we have in Colombia. We have 2 natural national parks, and we have institutions working there. But I think sometimes it's like a fashion, you know. So it's Ciénaga is so important, and we need money. When money arrives, a lot of people arrive. Everybody wants to be there. Everybody has ideas. When the money is finished, everybody runs away, and it's something like like a
The cycle, right?
cycle. I mean, I think it's a tragedy. I would say that because it's not continuous. People say, "Well, we know everything about Ciénaga." It's not right. I mean, we know a lot about Ciénaga, but not everything that we need to know. And so I think it's a continuity. So we have corrosions, but we also have lack of continuity to be able to keep the process part of the problem of Ciénaga Grande and Santa Marta.
And what part of this cycle are we in right now? Are people interested or not so interested?
We start to be interested because money is arriving, and now we have a big project coming. So yeah, and now we have a lot of people, NGOs, academia, different initiatives that are really interested in Ciénaga right now again.
Well, if they could listen to you and listen to the science and all the data that's been collected to this point, what would you recommend for these highly funded projects to do to actually have not just a short-term commitment, but a long-term commitment to the restoration and preservation of this ecosystem?
First, I think we need to talk more with people, with local communities. Need to do something really serious with local communities. Also, we need to use the information we collect years ago, not to restart, but to continue with the information, with the knowledge we already have. Because sometimes the knowledge is ignored, and we try to repeat what we already know. And to use the Ciénaga like a good enterprise, like we have such a patrimony, natural patrimony, so probably we can understand Ciénaga like this. We have this patrimony, and we have to be able to produce nice things for the people using this patrimony. Ciénaga is not a problem; it's a way to get solutions.
And you have a database that has established some of this research that's been done over decades,
We do.
correct?
We have the former German director of the project that was called ProCiénaga, Horst Sasvidel, that is living in Santa Marta. We have a database. This is an open access database that people can go and get a lot of information in different fields, in ecology, biology, geography, and social aspect, economic aspects. So it's a lot of information that we have there, and we can use, of course.
And a bit more generally, we can extrapolate a bit here. What is the importance for policy, for collaboration, to follow the data, not to just base things on emotion or fashion, as you say, or funding, but to really base things on the evidence? Science-based policy, science-based funding. How do you feel about this? Because I know that in many cases, especially here in Colombia, that might just be a very emotional and exciting approach to solving problems that really doesn't have a long-term, robust, resilient, possibility. So what for you does it mean to have science-based policy and for funding to actually follow the data?
I think the science reduce the possibility to do mistakes. So to reduce uncertainty is using science. So probably it's not a shortcut. Science need time and need money, but in the long term is the way to be successful. You know, or if we make mistakes, to understand what was the mistake and how we can solve the solution, the situation.
And do you think enough data is there to base decisions on for Ciénaga, for example?
Definitely, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we know when and how to reopen the channels.
Mm-hmm.
We know how to try to help mangrove to recover, and even also for some particular species, how to fish and when to fish,
Mm-hmm.
to try to not to decrease the populations.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, we have information that can be used right now to manage in a more intelligent way the Ciénaga Grande Santa Marta.
Mm-hmm. And in Colombia, with the current environmental ministry and in the past as well, that has brought in some of these international investments. Has much of that been based on the data that you've established? And maybe we can say this more generally too. How are decisions usually made for prioritizing different ecosystems here? Is it based on science, evidence, data, social activism? What is it that guides the approaches here from your experience?
I will say that it's a mix of all these things, but not mainly from science.
Mm-hmm.
Probably using information from other countries, the experience from from people from outside, but not from the local community or local knowledge. Is what I think.
Mm-hmm. That brings up an interesting question. Do you think there's a way of integrating the local knowledge, the traditional knowledge, let's say of the Palafitos, in the case of Ciénaga, or in other parts of the country, with the scientific knowledge, the data that's been collected? Is there a way to combine those into action and policy that's more robust and also has this social element to it?
I think it's mandatory. I mean, we need to think in the co-design. It's not only what scientists say, but we need to, in order to manage the ecosystems, we need to employ the co-design with people, not only local communities, academic sector, but other stakeholders. We need to improve the way that we communicate, to be more assertive in this communication, and in the way we improve the way we communicate each other. I think we can co-design the solutions, the natural-based solutions, but based on this co-design.
This is something I was going to ask you about also. Interdisciplinary, intercultural collaboration, and how that can help to establish natural-based solutions. Is that something you'd like to expand upon?
Yes, I think this is nothing. It's not new. It's not a new topic, natural-based solutions. But I think that now the way that we see is really interesting because now in Colombia at least we understand that we need to really talk each other. Because let's go back to the 50s when the government decided to build the road. Now we blame the road for the situation. But I think we needed that road.
Mm-hmm.
This is not the problem, the question. No, we need it. But how? So I means that we need to talk the engineers with the biologists, with the sociologists, with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Because yes, everybody wants the road. Everybody needs the road. No question about that. But how we can build the road in order to be more effective.
So that would be a natural-based solution, having that kind of collaboration, interdisciplinary collaboration, but maintaining the function of the ecosystem. That would be an example.
Exactly.
So have more connectivity between the ocean and the Ciénaga, for example.
That the ecologists understand, in this particular case, the engineering point of view, but also engineers understand why mangroves are so important for the road itself, to keep the road and to keep all the situation in the best way possible. Yeah? And it's not easy, of course, but it's required, it's mandatory.
And to have that conversation also include the local communities and the at a national level as well, those that are making policy, to understand the complex nature of those discussions. That's all quite important.
Yes, too. Because local communities has a very interesting knowledge. I mean, they know better the system than the rest of the world, of course. They're living there and they know perfectly the system. So yeah, we need to improve the dialogue with them, to learn from them, and to try to show what we know from other places.
And at a national level, government and also in academia, having different researchers, how would you suggest bringing people together to not approach it in a sort of over-specialized, isolated way, but working together to address complex problems? Socio-ecological problems is what it sounds like.
I think also it's important and it's necessary because similar problems have happened in other part of the world. So we can use this evidence or all this knowledge to apply in our case. And it's easy to attract people to work in Ciénaga because all these characteristics that we mentioned. So Ciénaga is easy to use to attract people and maybe to attract money to do research and to apply the research for the Ciénaga.
But these problems repeat themselves in all parts of Colombia and all parts of the world. But, so the Ciénaga gets attention and still doesn't really have a solution. What's happening in some other areas that you've worked in?
Could be even worse. Yes, definitely. And but we can use the Ciénaga as a model in both ways. What need to do or what need to avoid to do. Yeah, could be a good example from different cases.
Take lessons, yeah.
Exactly.
Positives and negatives. What maybe I should have asked when we're speaking specifically about mangroves, but where are some of the most important mangrove forests in Colombia that you've worked in, and what is their current?
Most of our mangrove forests are in the Pacific coast. Okay. In Tumaco, for instance, we have a big mangrove, not only in coverage but also in height. So 80% of the mangrove forests that we have in Colombia, we have in the Pacific zone.
Okay.
In the Caribbean, we have the rest, 22%, and mainly in Ciénaga Grande and also in Urabá. Two main regions with mangrove.
And on the Pacific, are they the same 5 species as the Caribbean?
We have more species, around 11. Mangrove species are, they are not, we say, the species have not phylogenetic relationships. They are more, to consider mangrove species need to have some ecological characteristics. And because of that, the number of mangrove species is not quite exactly, So some species that were considered mangrove years ago nowadays are not considered anymore, are associated. We have a mangrove forest with different species, but some are true mangrove. And they're the one that can resist salinity and can resist also the movement of the sea. So they have some particular characteristics, mainly related with salinity conditions. So to be mangrove, there have to be these all adaptations, the type of roots and also the shape of the leaves and the seed, the propagule, all these things.
Are there many risks to the mangrove forests of the Pacific coast? There's, of course, most of Colombia's population is concentrated around the Magdalena River basin. So the Chocó is a rainforest on the Pacific coast that is less populated, less developed. But are there some risks that exist right now to the mangrove forests of the Pacific, or that are projected to be risks in the coming years?
Well, the main risk, at least in the Pacific, is the deforestation.
Okay.
Because in the Pacific we have, I say, a big coverage, but also the trees are bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Because of that, people look for these forests, cut the trees, and to, of course, sell the wood.
So this is illegal logging. We're talking about deforestation.
Logging is illegal. I guess in Colombia, it's only one place where it's legal. Mm-hmm. But in the Pacific, it's not legal. Yeah.
And the mangroves, is that more for a commercial market or for local use in the Pacific?
Commercial mangrove. I mean, for the local use, they use the small trees.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And is this more for export? Is it then sent out?
Definitely, yeah, not for export.
Okay. Not very familiar. Where, maybe I can ask a little bit more, where is that going to? Is Pacific shipped out to where mostly?
I would say North America.
Yeah, especially.
I would say.
Okay. I'm familiar with proposals for roads going through the Choco and port being proposed in the Tribuga area. Are these other risks to some of the mangrove species, or are you optimistic that these things aren't going to happen?
No, I'm not so optimistic. I think sooner or later they are going to try to do something like that, to have some harbors and these. And it's going to be a really problematic situation there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. A port, I can see that a port would have direct impacts through deforestation and other kinds of contamination, but roads, as we spoke about, they can cut off the wetlands and estuarine ecosystems. Are there other fears of development that would come in through infrastructure projects to the Choco and the mangrove forests of the Pacific?
One could be the tourism.
Okay.
The tourism, because it's growing up, which is okay, but depending on the type of tourist, could be really tragic or not. Mm-hmm. If they try to do big buildings and harbors and ports and all this type of development, it's going to be really tragic for the Pacific. But if they do it in a different way, probably, the tourism could be a good enterprise to help society there. So it depends,
Of course. Let's talk a bit about your experience in San Andrés. You were the director of the National University campus there. And you've explained to me some really interesting aspects. It's a small campus. There seem to be much less obstacles, many less barriers for researchers from different fields interacting with each other, collaborating with each other. There's not as much of this attitude of competition, things that we're experiencing in academia and other places. I'd love if you would expand upon that. What allowed that small campus to be sort of a nucleus of interdisciplinary collaboration? How did you help to foster that as the director? And then do you see any way that that can be replicated at a larger scale for places like the Bogotá campus of the National University, or more generally, just ways to foster interdisciplinary collaboration?
Well, years ago, like 30 years ago, the university decided to have some branches in the frontiers. Mm-hmm. And small campuses. So we have in Amazonia, in Leticia, we have one. In Orinoquia, in Arauca, we have other branches. Tumaco, and in San Andrés. San Andrés Island is a very, I would say, the people is really different to the rest of the Colombian people. Mm-hmm. Because they're more British influence. Mm-hmm. So people speaking Creole.
Mm-hmm. English Creole.
English Creole, mm-hmm. as well in Spanish, of course. Mm-hmm. And it's in a small island, and it's an oceanic environment. Mm-hmm. So because of that, people is different in many senses. So when university decided to build up a campus there, was a lot of I would say criticisms, because for some sector was kind of academic colonialism. But at the end, the people was say, okay, let's try what happened with the university. So the university built up a botanical garden there, and also small branches for the locals. And we start with a program in Spanish we call PEAMA, that means that it's a particular program to open the door for the students doing the same exam that the rest of the country, but they rate in a different way. So give the opportunity to locals to go in the university. Start there and then move to other branches in the mainland, and at the end go back to San Andres. And we have more than I guess 12 years now from that program, and we have I mean it's really nice, very successful. It's not a massive program, so people sometimes say, well, we are so few. No, I mean San Andres is a small place, so we have no bunch of people. But I want to say is that the university is working in a very nice way there. We have a lot of professionals now that that did all the career in Universidad Nacional de Colombia. And were asking me to the cooperation. So in order to have this program and a master program and a PhD program that we have now there, we need to open for the faculty members in a different fields and not in faculties. We don't have any faculty there, so we have to, in the same place we have people from the social science, for scientific knowledge and whatever. So I think this give the opportunity to talk, you know, in a more open way. And in my opinion, is one of the situations in Bogotá that we have faculties, a lot of professors, they only recognize the university for their own faculty. They never talk with people from other faculties.
Very rarely.
So I think this is the key things to try to do transdisciplinary conversations, transdisciplinary projects in that way.
From those conversations that you were having and the conversations happening between disciplines in San Andres, were there any interesting ideas or projects that came out of that?
Yes, now we have some projects in social and natural-based solutions. We have projects in restoration systems that have different perspectives, not only biology or ecological perspective, but in more open way. The idea to have a network in Mangrove was born in San Andres.
Okay. The national network.
It's a national network for estuaries and for mangrove.
That's great. So in system science and complex systems, talk a lot about scale and the amount of data necessary to have organized system. In this case, in San Andres, you have a certain number of people that are able to interact with each other, and then there are ideas and projects that emerge from that. But then it seems like we're in a situation where the scale is almost too big in the Bogota campus. Maybe it's not, but what is it that's in that scaling up of the structure? You talk about the faculties and the divisions that makes it so that kind of innovative, transdisciplinary, interdisciplinary dialogue is limited. Is it also just part of the academic structure in general that makes it so people are more secretive or competitive? I mean, what are some ideas to help to start from the base of a place like San Andres and then grow and preserve that sort of beautiful ability to interact with each other in a more open way?
Yeah, well, it's a very difficult question. But I think San Andres also, as a model, is good because the size, So, and it's also very attractive at the same time. So probably it's easy to help that people from different disciplines try to think about the problems. And probably in San Andres it's easier to list the main problems. In Bogotá is a major issue, to understand the problems. So the list is probably bigger. And yes, I think that the size has a lot of to do with the situation. And we have an island there, so in some ways simplifies or reduce the the problem. So again, we can use San Andres as a model to learn and to try to apply some of these ideas in places like Bogotá. It's a big city with a lot of people and many problems and different type of problems.
Right. And here at the Bogota campus, you've been I think the director of the biology department before. You've had some roles exploring the possibility of being the dean of the faculty and things like that. Have you thought to apply some of the lessons from San Andres to the structure here in Bogota to help people be more open and have more collaborative experiences, both as students and as researchers?
I think the main problem was that it was right that for San Andres. I mean, I tried the idea to try to do more transdisciplinary approach, and here was basically impossible. So people are so concentrated in their own science, and they don't touch each other.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was the director here, we created an activity, the open doors. In Spanish, we call "Usted no sabe quién soy yo." You don't know who I am. And we have something like a week. All faculty members were talking about the experience. And everybody will say, wow, you do this. I didn't know that. And my neighbor, he's working in something similar that is maybe complementary with what I'm interested in. I didn't know. And I saw him, and I see him every day, but we never really talk. So I think we need to, at least in Bogota, to talk more and to be more, try to open the door and be more transdisciplinary.
Yeah.
To have more transdisciplinary approach.
Yeah. Of course, this is an interest that we share. I tried to work for a long time in helping to foster interdisciplinary collaborations, also intercultural. And thinking in terms of scale, I find it very interesting what you were able to accomplish in San Andres. We can think of a place like Bogota, but then expanding it beyond because, of course, if you don't even know what your neighbor is working on, how often is it that you really know what someone is working on, even outside of your own institute? Or sometimes it's even easier to know what somebody's working on at an institute in another country than just somebody right next to you. So what are some of those frameworks that can be put in place so that those resources and ideas can then be combined and a dialogue can be fostered so that the correct respect is applied to each local and international knowledge system? So that's part of what I'm trying to help foster here, and then give attention to a lot of the local knowledge as well. I always wonder from a systems approach, how can we scale up? What are some of those core rules and orderings in place that can then get people interested enough to want to talk about what they're doing? In your case, your neighbor, maybe there's this mindset that's been put in place that you're almost competitors at the same institute, not collaborators. Like you have to distinguish yourself from your neighbor. And that's really inefficient and bad for the institute as well. And that's within your own department. And then what is it that can then help encourage a biologist to go over to the physics department or the chemistry or the sociology department to build a more robust program or network or idea? And it's much easier if it's a small place like it's San Andres where they can talk to each other. But I continue to want to explore ideas for how we can try to do that on a larger scale, including an international scale. What are some of those fundamental, even human nature aspects that make them want to open up and collaborate? Do you think, I'm asking a lot of questions, but do you think maybe the younger generations of researchers might be a bit more open to this kind of dialogue, the kind of challenges that we're experiencing in the world right now, whether it's climate change or degradation or all these different things? Will it help to bring together people into things like natural-based solutions based on interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary approaches to things?
I think if we are able to convince the young people that cooperation is more efficient than the competition, I think this is part of the clue.
Yeah.
If they understand and they recognize and they can prove that yes, if I cooperate, I am able to get my goal in an easier way, because we are more training to compete.
Yeah.
And I think competition is important, of course, but cooperation, I think, is powerful. I think this is the part of the issue.
You just find that balance, encourage cooperation, collaboration more. Do you do that with your students here?
Yeah, this is what I'm trying to do, to work together and also to identify or try to get identification of the same problem. Because for projects happen all the time, the different partners see a different way the project. This is not a problem. The problem is when everybody has identify a different problem.
Right. If it's the same problem, different perspectives, that can make the solutions
exactly
more interesting, of course.
But if everybody recognizes like a different problem has a different project, and they cannot talk, because no way to connect. So we need to connect through the get the solution of the same problem with a different perspective, of course. Yeah.
We're talking now mostly about academia and people that have a certain level of training in, there's some ability to have dialogue there. If we bring in the public sector or local communities, indigenous people, things like that, do you see any things that can be like a common language to help to foster these kinds of dialogue?
So I guess economy is a common ground, because everybody understands about this economy. So this is one of the possibilities to establish a common ground and to identify the problem and with the different ways try to get a solution and see the convenience to be part of this. So when we identify that we have also our patrimony, natural patrimony, but when everybody can get benefit or everybody need to have this, I think people is more prone to cooperate.
Yeah, again, speaking of these collaborations as a basis for natural-based solutions, seems like a major ambition for you and what you want to communicate to your students going forward. What are some of your plans for this? What are some projects that are coming up, and what are some ideas that you can be helped with?
Well, now we are working with some European dialogues program in natural-based solutions. We use in mangrove seagrasses and coral reefs, and we are trying to pull people from a different perspective. We have the academia, we have authorities, we have local communities, and also we have NGOs and people from the general public or the general audience. Try to understand the concept and try to also to apply part of the concept in their own places. So the national networking is focusing on these topics right now. And with the ECOPS, the Early Careers Open Professional in Ocean Sciences, we also try to improve this type of ideas.
Certainly think it's a wonderful ambition to bring different perspectives together, foster cooperation and collaboration, using international and national networks to create more robust and long-term programs, and great hope for applying those things to vital ecosystems like the Ciénaga Grande de Santa Marta. So look forward to continuing these conversations. And, if there's anything else you'd like to share for what you think is important, please feel free.
Thank you, Daniel. And I think also this activity that we are doing right now, I think is really important. To communicate each other. I think this is like a bridge, like the way to go. To make the ideas to flow or to connect people from different parts of the world. So I think this what you are doing is also critical, fundamental to try to apply the ideas.
Thank you so much, Ernesto. You as well. The work you do is incredibly important and greatly appreciative of it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Ernesto. Thank you for joining us for this interdialogue. You can subscribe to be notified of future episodes and by following us on our social media channels at the InterPlex. Visit our website, interplex.org, for more interdisciplinary and intercultural content and to join our growing collaborative community.